And you know you can also reach out to the board as well. And as a team, we do review what you submit. So with that, I do invite parents to communicate, and we as a team will figure out the next steps, okay?
I, can I go off that? As a parent of with 3 children in the district, I really, and I've said this before during these meetings, parent involvement is key to the entire school process. I asked my children what they were reading. I have read several of the books my high school has brought home for his honors ELA class already. I don't, it's teen fiction. It's not really my thing, but I'm reading it because I want to know what he's reading and I want him be able to come to me honestly and know that I'm open to answer questions if he has any questions about what he has read. So again, I want to make sure that we're involving all parents in this situation as well, and I feel like our policy allows parents and the community to be stakeholders in this situation.
Greg?
Yeah, I also wanted to point out there's a law that's been on the books for some time in Indiana, Indiana Code 20-30-5-13, that talks about introduction on human or an instruction on human sexuality and sexually transmitted diseases. And it's very clear that requires a teacher to teach abstinence from sexual activity outside of marriage as the expected standard for all school-age children, including the instruction that abstinence from sexual activity is the only certain way to avoid out-of-wedlock pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, and other associated health problems, and including the instruction that the best way to avoid sexually transmitted diseases and other associated problems is to establish a mutually faithful, monogamous relationship in the context of a marriage. So if we have a book that talks about, explicitly talks about sex between teenagers, how does that dovetail with this law and how we teach about human sexuality?
So I
Well,
can
you
answer
asked
that, Greg.
that.
I'd like to ask
answer-
that, can I
I
ask
can
that to
answer
an
that.
administration person?
You asked that question several times, many different ways, in that seminar we were in, and they clearly answered you that the teaching of curriculum is different under the law from media books. They'd answered it. I even took a screenshot of it. And they ascertained that the Supreme Court has routinely affirmed the right to read. So these are two different lanes. And you're right that that is the law, abstinence in Indiana, for teaching sexuality, but that the reading materials are protected under the Supreme Court's affirmation that reading is a protected right.
Okay. One thing I will say is I've gone through the 55, 21, and 22, the revised versions, and I think you've done a pretty good job with cutting and pasting from legislation in some cases. So I think you've got pretty much the details. There's a few little minor glitches that we probably don't want to spend the time here to go through that. I could reach out to Dr. Dudley directly with that, or however you'd like
If
me
you
to.
would email it through our normal channels about sending it to Dr. Beresford and copying the board.
That's
on
what I
that.
always do.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just go ahead and do that so that we can see that. That would
Yeah.
be great.
And I guess we'll learn next year when it's implemented and we start reviewing books at the board level, and we'll see where everyone stands on this, having this kind of material in our libraries for our children.
Thank you, Greg.
Can I ask a
Kristen?
clarifying question?
Mhm.
This law, since it came into effect, or will it come into effect January 1, 2024, to prepare for this new policy, this has been reviewed by our attorneys.
Yep, and I'll let
Correct.
Dr. Dudley.
Could you clear, I just want to,
Yes.
I'm trying to remember all of
That
this.
is correct. So this law, this new policy that we have has been reviewed by our attorneys as well as our media specialist at the high school level, and as well as our administrative staff as well, looking at this policy to make sure that it is in line with the new legislation. And it follows that.
Thank you. Anything else this evening? All right, thank you for that. This will come back up for a vote in December 18th. Thank you. All right, we will now move on to updates, board reports. Not board, you're not in the board. Dr. Beresford.
Thank you very much. Very spirited discussion tonight, and I think back to the way we started the meeting with Darcy Moffat's essay, and and how this is how democracy works. And so I appreciate your discussion this evening. Um, Start with, I thought, if you're wondering why our superintendent is looking pretty scruffy tonight, is that it's because I'm continuing my tradition of No Shave November on behalf of those who struggle with mental health issues. So I believe we've come a long way to reduce the stigma of getting help over the years, and have seen much more support and resources for those with mental health challenges. But we still have more work to do. So just want to reiterate the message I've said for, maybe a couple of decades now, that it's okay not to be okay. And please reach out and tell someone if you're struggling, because there's help. Secondly, I wanted to say that I wanted to give, my topic is just thank you. And I want to give my heartfelt thanks to our community for supporting the referendum last week. So many parents, teachers, community members did so much to communicate the facts across the community, especially about the remarkably misleading public question that was on the ballot, and to make sure that voters were informed about what was at stake, and also, more importantly than that, showed up and voted. And so I just want to thank you for this, and really to all those involved for all you do to support the students and families that we serve. Third item is just student performances. I want to do a couple of shout outs. And the first one is to the Marching Greyhounds, who finished second in the country at the Bands of America National Competition. They got second by 0.2 of a point. But to Avon, which I mentioned last meeting, is like the most rivalry probably in any kind of competition. But two great performances. Those two bands were far above third place, and it's just something pretty special about those two programs in Indiana. I did get to attend the musical at Carmel Middle School, and it was The Drowsy Chaperone. And I think there was almost 100 kids involved in that production, either on the stage or in the behind the scenes, putting the whole thing together. And it was, I just don't think there's anything that makes me smile more than a middle school musical. And the talent that is really something, but also just they're just having a lot of fun. And it was just amazing. And along those lines, the Creekside Middle School is going to do Newsies and coming up, and I'm sure that'll be equally as fun and exciting, and that's Thursday. And then another thing that's been going on around, and several of our elementary schools have held international festivals and fairs this fall, celebrating the many countries, cultures, and traditions that make up their school family. And these type of celebrations are kind of the eye in equity and inclusion, and are great experiences for everyone to learn about cultures around the world and across the street, because we have the whole world here in Carmel Clay Schools. So it's getting great reviews from those that had them, and we've had them for years, and just special times to be able to look at different kinds of food and different kinds of dress and different kind of dance and all kinds of different cultural things like that. So all those are pretty special. But my bell ringer, especially this being the board being so close to Veterans Day, is Veterans Day. And as Dr. Ostrike presented earlier, the Purple Star, I think, is a wonderful thing. And I'm proud of all of our schools for taking the extra efforts that they had to do to qualify for that. Also, Dr. O and I attended a breakfast meeting which was focused on veterans, and there was a person there who works for AmVets, which tries to recruit and find jobs for veterans, and they specifically recruit people to Indiana to take different types of positions. And then the census data on that is that Indiana is somewhere between 8 and 10% of our population are veterans. And so that's especially important that we have these types of programs in order to support those who have served our country or currently serve in our country. So very proud of that and thankful for that. Along with that, Dr. O took my place at the Carmel Veterans Program, and that's always a great time, which included our elementary choir who sang. We had our young artists that presented their poster-winning contest, and Jeff Worrell and Dr. O were able to talk with each of them about their artwork, which is always very, very cute. And then also the middle school has an essay contest, and with several, were all the kids from Carmel Clay Schools this year?
Yep, all of them from Carmel, one from Clay, one from Carmel Middle, and one from Creekside.
So always a special program, so I missed that one, which is the conclusion of this. And we also had a lot of Veterans Day programs in our elementaries and middle schools, of course. But I attended the Carmel High School Veterans Day program, and first thing I wanted to highlight was just the music. Our band played several different patriotic tunes, and you know, you have a lot of options in the band to play something very simple or a simple version of it, and then there's also the opportunity to really take on some complex music, and they of course picked the complex one, which was just amazing. The thing that gets me every time on Veterans Day programs is when they do the Armed Forces medley. And when they're playing that medley, every time like the Marine song comes on, all the Marines stand up. And some of our people that attended are, you know, from the greatest generation. And when they stand up and salute or stand so proud, it's just something. And the entire junior class attended that. And it was silent during that. And then every time a veteran stood up, they clapped and clapped their hearts out. So it was really, really very special. And of course, there was Darcy's essay, which was, I thought, just amazing. And then the main speaker was Pete O'Hara. And Pete taught in Carmel Clay Schools for over 20 years and in the social studies department. And he also served for over 20 years in the Armed Forces and actually had a pretty, a lot of leadership roles in the military and was on several tours. And he was on the ground with a battalion that would, you know, frontline kind of work. And so, but Pete is also a gifted speaker, and he really did a nice job of describing what veterans go through. And, you know, we always think of war, but there's always a lot of people that may not be in the front lines, but they're not home for Christmas. They're not home for Thanksgiving. They are at every corner of the world serving. And so along with that sacrifice, I could even highlight our own Amy Dudley, whose husband and son is in the service. That she's not a registered, you know, part of the service, but she has sacrifice, and she has, you know, to keep the home going while they're serving. And so there's a lot of pieces to this, and the family. So and Pete really did a good job of bringing that home. That there's a wide range of people that are serving our country that a great sacrifice, and that we should always remember them and always do what we can to support our veterans and those in the active service. And with that, I will close my report. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Our next meeting is November 27th at 8 a.m. It will be an abbreviated agenda. And then our next regular meeting will be, and the only meeting in December will be December 18th at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Jenny? Yes. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Figured.
I have left him sitting